there are traces here of the experience of an eyewitness, the detail, the exact distance of the boat from the shore, the names of disciples, what was actually said, "I'm going fishing, we'll come with you," the mood that in itself conveys, utter discouragement, people who had left everything, apparently in vain, what we would today call a situation of mega blues and a dead end at the end. And then we have the beginning of the reversal. They had not caught a thing all night, which wouldn't have helped their depression. And then this huge catch. Notice not 150, but 153 fish. Only someone who was present at the event would know that and care to note it down. And then this way of talking in the third person, the one that Jesus loved, and the most intuitive of them all, it is the Lord, just a whisper. And then, strangely enough, there's no need for whispering as the scene progresses. None of the disciples was bold enough to ask, "Who are you?" They knew quite well it was the Lord. What does he do? This desire, not only here but elsewhere in these apparitions, to invite them to touch his humanity, is actually quite profound. He says on one appearance that a ghost does not have bones, flesh, as he has. And this point that he's making of eating with them a real meal goes in the same direction. He's from the beginning indicating that here we are not handling ghost stories. That's going to be important for history. Just a little aside here. Ghost stories are part of human experience. Way back in school days, when studying Pliny, we had among his writings his ghost stories, indicating precisely that they were part and parcel of classical, of antiquity as such, literature coming down to us from a good writer as other writers. And therefore, they are not to be easily discarded. People sometimes stand aloof when they hear about, for instance, things happening in a place, things moving in a house, or things being seen. As it happens, only yesterday I had a phone call from a young person actually, who had asked me to celebrate in her new house, which turned out to be infested because her little child was seeing things and reacting accordingly. One was, it would seem, her guardian angel, and I've heard of that happening before. The child is playing with somebody that we can't see and smiling and giggling and very happy. A tiny child is very close to heaven, as we know, and that can easily happen. But also the other bit, that there was a presence in one specific part of the house, and the child knew it and saw it and was horrified. They are our eyes. But this phone call said we had Master the other day and it had gone. So that is the only thing that will clean up an atmosphere if there's something wrong. And these requests come out of the blue, often from young people. One day I was in a garage not far from where I live, and this young garage man, complete with tattoos I think, came out of the woodwork and said, just the man I need, could you come here and celebrate the stuff going on here? And they were actually quite alarmed about its violence, big heavy batteries going around and so on. So it's something which one can't get away from. The older the building might be, the more history there might be in it. So that's just to say that these things are also things which, if one isn't careful, can be confused with the real issue. Being that we are human beings and that we have misbehaved in an area, it can happen that we can not be at rest and that we can do part of our purgatory in the area where we have sinned. Therefore there can be a clinging on of presences to a place, and that can be the explanation for things not at rest in that place. Indeed, we are more informed than we were about this side of things because of closed-circuit television, which are now all over the place. And there's one particularly interesting case, which is fairly recent, which one can see for oneself if one wants to on YouTube. It's the case of a friendly ghost, a protective ghost. What happens is this: a burglar, well armed, breaks into a house without realizing that there's something in the house that he doesn't know about. And so he does his burglary and is about to go away happy with his booty, when suddenly, when he turns, he's confronted with what one sees to be, one can actually just about, even on the screen, see a tiny outline. Interesting. But he can see only what seems to be an ordinary human being. And interestingly, the closed-circuit television camera picks up all that goes on, and one can see him pulling out a gun and shooting at this, which for him is an ordinary human being. One can see the flashes coming out of the gun because on these closed-circuit televisions there's no sound. And then one can see the reaction on his face. He's horrified because it has no effect, and the presence is still looking at him, and he is seen to put everything back and go with his tail between his legs out as quickly as he came in. A very interesting case, which is close to us in time, which indicates that there can be this link somehow between spirits not at rest, who have not been freed from their purgatory, and where they've been. And if these spirits come, they go where the house was and as it was. They will therefore go through what might have been at the time a proper corridor, which might have been knocked down in the meantime or put in place, so that they go through walls apparently. So this is an interesting study. Now, getting back to where I started, this is the whole point about the Lord here deliberately making a point to clarify it for all history, that these 11 disciples were not the victims of hallucination or any kind of poltergeist intervention. They were not handling in any case anything which was but of their imagination, but there was objective reality before them. This is going to be the case in all these apparitions for this 40-day period. And then something is going to change on Ascension Thursday. The Lord is no longer going to be present to his creation in the same way. It's a mystery, but there is a change in the rapport between heaven and earth on Ascension Thursday. The Lord now is present to all his creation in his divinity. The third person of the Blessed Trinity has that presence, but we cannot in the same way expect bodily apparitions. Having said that, we had, you may have been actually present in Kilnacrot one time when I was there as a novice, an interesting manifestation of a Marian presence. I can't remember whether you were there or not when we had one of the very large vigils.
Yeah,
and there was something going on.
Yeah.
And you remember I was a novice at the time, and they couldn't handle the thing which held the Blessed Virgin of Fatima.
Yeah, yeah. I remember
It
that.
happened more than once because I was right behind it, and I couldn't understand what was going on. They just couldn't hold it. And then it happened again halfway down, the same thing exactly. And then Michael Cassidy was turning around to the other man, "Do you find this York terribly heavy?" And they couldn't understand why. But they insisted and they carried on. And then this child, afterwards, I heard this from Father Oliver at dawn, this child came up to him and said what he'd seen at those 2 points, and further down, he said Our Lady was actually on there, and therefore what was going on was her weight was there. So that's interesting, because what's happening there is that in virtue of the assumption, in virtue of the bodily assumption of Our Blessed Lady, that can actually happen. That it would seem, if that's the case, that she can, if she wishes, manifest herself. In that case, only one person saw her. But although actually I was talking to other friends years later, and I still see them, and there had been, at the third event, it was down at the grotto towards midnight, when we had said we'd finished the rosary there, and we prayed and sang to Our Lady, and there was, there were things going on. We had this wonderful odour of things, there were kind of incense odour coming in, but the thing is that also this young man at the time, he happened to look round, and he wasn't particularly, he'd be very balanced now, but he, for a flash of a second, he saw, as it were, somebody who wasn't supposed to be there, and then he copped on, then it had gone, he didn't see it again, but he was suggesting, yes, there was something there, because this child had seen over a cloud Our Lady there at the grotto, looking over us, beaming at us, and blessing us. She was very happy at that all-night event where there were so many hundreds there, and therefore heaven at that point was very close. There was a huge calm over us all. So these are indications that the thin line between heaven and earth, flesh and the beyond of the spirit, man and God, human beings and the greater saints, like Our Blessed Lady, these at times can be very, very, very thin indeed, and that there can be more contact than we think between the two spheres. It's something to be aware of if we're close to death. Things happen at that point. You may or may not have been present at the death of somebody. Well, apparently one of the things that very often happens is that even in a state of comatosis, when a person is normally out of touch, suddenly the eyes open and they seem to be looking, but they're not actually looking at you or anyone there, they're looking at something else or someone else. And it would seem that there's a frontier area there when they're about to go forever into the beyond, where actually they may be in some way in contact either with Our Lord or Our Lady directly, or with perhaps angels or some members of the family, as it were, waiting for them. And there's a point there in which it would seem there's a moment of, for them, lucidity, and they're being, as it were, in the antechamber prepared for the great voyage. And it's something to be aware of if one is talking to somebody who has not yet lost lucidity, because they can help. I remember when I was in Rome and I was still attached to Kilnacrot, and therefore I wasn't ordained, and things were going wrong there, and my future wasn't at all certain. And I got a message from the monastery, the Carthusian monastery, when I'd been formed in France, and it was from Don Augustin, and he was watching Don Simeon, my novice master, way back, and he was a holy man, and I said to him in a letter, get Don Simeon, give him a message when he goes to heaven to get, Brother David wants to be ordained, he's having a job. So anyway, and this letter came back, that he'd been able to give the message, he'd come back as it were to life, he'd had a moment of lucidity, and he got the message, and he beamed. It was the last pastoral joy, that was the comment that came back. That message gave him joy. So he died, and very soon afterwards things were opened up. And so it's interesting because these can actually happen, that we're sending a message with a friend to heaven as they die, and they can have influence. They remember these messages, and they can also greet people out there, like Daddy and Mary. They can actually come across each other and send greetings, because heaven is not, as it were, a complete discontinuity with this life. It's one family. And our Catholic faith helps us to remember that, because when we mention these people, e.g. in the Roman canon, we're really helping them a lot, and they like to hear those names mentioned on high. They have power, these mentioning of names mentally at the consecration or just before or after, whatever. These are times when we have a power over souls and over eternity. I just conclude. The word that John used, it is the Lord, in Latin Dominus est, has been picked up by Bishop Athanasius Schneider. And he has a volume on it, a book entitled that, Dominus Est. And he is indicating that we need to be aware of what and whom we're handling. And therefore there are consequences. If we believe that this is the same person who discreetly, humbly, in a veiled manner, is truly before us, as was coming through the walls and doors there in the upper room, or appearing on the Sea of Tiberias, then there are consequences. He draws them out with regard to reverence and interiority and exteriority, notably that we do not presume to handle the Lord as we would any ordinary bread. I just conclude there. This question of the way that we handle our God is going to come back to us. We will be judged in part on this. We priests certainly will be. But it applies to everyone who draws close to this same risen Lord. How did you handle me? It is the same one. Dominus est. Dominus vobiscum, benedicat vos omnipotens Deus Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Ite missa est, alleluia, alleluia. Deo gratias, alleluia, alleluia. Alleluia, alleluia, give thanks to the risen Lord. Alleluia, alleluia, give praise to his name. Jesus is Lord of all the earth. He is the King of creation. Alleluia.
I say, this is what I call a serious gate. Better than Fort Knox, I would say. Not a chance getting in. I would ever think of trying even to get in. I mean, so well protected on both sides. I mean, this is what I call a real fortification. Fort Knox, bang on, I say. Fort Knox in Ireland, the Irish version, I see. Good afternoon, sir. You dwell in this Fort Knox, I believe, yes. Well protected by this enormous gate that no one gets through. Now, what is your name, sir? What is your name?
Oscar.
Ah, I say, a noble name. Now, do we shake hands? Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Now, smile, you're on candid camera. Now, are you going to say your prayers like the rest of us? Yes? Okay, be a good little dog now. Bye-bye, little man. Bye-bye, bye-bye. And you're safe.
Good evening. Have you said your prayers? Yes, you're far more interested in Catherine's hand, aren't you? Taste it. Yes, we know what's good for us. Night, night, little one. Night, night. what have we here? Oh, I say. What is your name, little man? Or is it a woman?
Yeah, woman.
A woman? What is your name?
It doesn't have a name.
Nameless. We can't have that. At La Trappe, they all had names. Yes. Good evening. Hello. Hello there. Are you shy? How long have you been with us?
Not that long.
New delivery, eh? New delivery.
He's older than the rest.
So he knows it's more comfortable on this side than on the inside of Mammy, yes?
Yeah.
Feet on the ground, not too wobbly.
He's looking at the bucket.
Centre of attention. The bucket. It's the refectory, yes. Is anyone reading to you? Yes. No, I say, at least you observe silence. Yes, we're even dressed as Cistercians, I see, black and white. Yes, perfect Trappists. Yes, not a word from you. Yes, high culture, I would say. Ruminating, yes. All about the degrees of contemplation. Yes, Lectio, meditatio, ruminatio, that's for your business, isn't it? Ruminating, ruminatio, and oratio. Yes, oratio. You're big into oratio, I can see, yes. Oratio. What's the idiot miniature? Life in miniature, eh? What have we here? Newborn, eh? Newborn. How long have they been on the planet?
3-4 weeks, I think.
No, I say, all new experience, eh? Yeah, we get used to it. Yeah, I say, good night, little people. Good night. Now say your prayers. Good night. I say, you only carved yesterday. Was that your first child? No? Oh, I say, plenty more where that came from. No, I say, you're very fruitful.
Well, she's getting on now.
Senior member of the community. Eh? Yeah, well, carry on. The more we get, the more the merrier. Yes, on the conveyor belt, lots and lots of little ones. Yes, you're doing very well, very well. Enough milk, eh? Yes, plenty of milk, yes. I say. Now, what's going on here? Oh, there's a chapel there.
That's the Gospel Hall.
Gospel Hall, yes. I say that the cows are into prayer, are they? Protestant, eh? Protestant, we can't have that.
When they're over there praying, the cows who go over, when they hear the noise of anybody talking, they go over and stand at the gap there beside it.
Did you hear that? There you go. Listen to the praise of God. Isn't that great now? That is fantastic. Now, carry on, little people. Praise the Lord in your own tone. Bye-bye. Now, don't forget to say compline before you go to sleep. Night, night.